So what this is a work through of the worksheet you're doing while I'm not in, while I'm not teaching. So Mr. Steiner can use this, put it, have it go forward, backwards, whatever. All 20 problems are going to be answered herein. So worksheet's broken up into two sets of 10. First 10 being translations, second 10 being reflections. So 1 through 10, they're set up a little bit differently here. You want to be able to go, instead of in the book, it has it as x plus 2, y minus 1, things like that. Here we're going to go right, left, up, down. Right being positive x, left being negative x, y being, or up being positive y, and down being negative y. So if we sit here and we look at the first one, we have 2 units right and 1 unit down. So it's going to be x plus 2, y minus 1. So our 4 points are negative 3, 2, negative 3, 4, negative 2, 5, and 0, 5. So what we want to do is we know that on each of these, what we're going to do is we're going to add 2 to the x and subtract y, 1 from the y. And that's all that translation says. 2 units to the right and 1 unit down. So instead of trying to kind of do the whole thing as one, want to break it down point by point. So we're going to start with negative 3, 2. That's x. And so we're going to add 2 to the negative 3. We get negative 1. And we get 2 minus 1, and that's 1. So that's going to be our new x point. Do the same thing, x prime. Do the same thing with our w point. Negative 3, 4 goes to negative 3 plus 2 is negative 1. 4 minus 1 is going to be 3. Then we have negative 2, 5. We go negative 2 plus 2. That's 0. And 5 minus 1 is 4. Finally, we have 0, 3. We're going to go 0 plus 2 is 2. And 3 minus 1 is 2. So those are going to be our 4 points. So on each of these, what I'm going to do is switch the color. Here we're going to use blue. And we put x prime, w prime, and v prime. And u prime. And as you can see, it's an identical match for the pre-image. Again, the pre-image is what we start with. The image is what we have when we're done. So number 2, 1 unit left, 1 unit down. So there we're just going to go x minus 1, y minus 1. And again, what I like to do is I like to just go negative 1, 3, label all my points. Negative 1, negative 3, 4, negative 2, and 4, negative 4. So on each one of these, what we're going to do is we're going to subtract 1 from the x and 1 from the y. So negative 1, negative 3 transforms to negative 2, negative 4. 4, negative 2 is going to transform to 3, negative 3. And 4, negative 4 is going to transform to 3, negative 5. So we're just going to put in I prime, H prime, and G prime, and there you go. So that's what we're doing. Find the coordinates of the vertices and then graph the translated figure. And on to number 3. So this one's pretty easy. It just says 4 units down. So notice that we don't actually have any x things to worry about. So when we sit there and work through it, we're just going to go y minus 4. No x change. So we just start with L. We're going to move 4 down. 1, 2, 3, 4. And that's going to be L prime. We're going to go M prime. We're going to go 4 down. Actually, that's 5 down, so I'll go back and fix that in a second. And then K prime, 4 down. And that's our triangle. And that's it. If you actually wanted to use the numbers, L is at 4, 3. So we subtract 4 from the y and we get 4, negative 1. M is at 4, 0. We subtract 4 from the y, we get 4, negative 4. And k is at 5, 1. We subtract 4 from the y, so we're going to get 1 minus 4 is negative 3. So we get 5, negative 3. Number 4, 2 units left, 8 units down. So that's x minus 2, y minus 8. We start off with 3, 3, 5, 4, and 5, 3. So what we're going to be doing is with the 3, 3, we're going to subtract 2 from the x, so we get 1. And we subtract 8 from the y. Now, I put negative 1 there, but it's actually a positive 1. So, went back and fixed that. So, 5 and 4. 5, we're going to go and we are going to subtract 2. So, 5 minus 2 is 3. 4 minus 8, negative 4. Okay? So, that is going to be our t prime. And u prime, we're going to go 5, 3. 5 minus 2, 3. 3 minus 8, negative 5. So that's so now we have our s prime, our t prime, and our u prime. And we can go ahead and notice that I screwed up. So we're going to go positive 1 there. 1, 5, 3, negative 5, and 3, negative 4. And I said 1, 5, it's actually 1, negative 5. Okay? So if this doesn't make sense to you, go ahead and rewind it. Or ask Mr. Steiner to rewind it. If it still doesn't make sense to you, ask for help. And if it still doesn't make sense to you, then wait until I get back and we'll go over it tomorrow. Okay, so 5 and 6. So 5, what we're going to do is we're going to go x minus 2 and y minus 5. So those are 3 points, 0, 3, 3, 4, 4, 1. And just like we did on the previous 4, we're going to undergo that transformation, minus 2, minus 2. So, and we get that by going x, so we're going to plug the x in there and our y in there. And that's going to give us 0 minus 2 is negative 2, and 3 minus 5 is negative 2. So that is going to be our n prime point. 3, 4, this is m, undergoes the transformation. 3 minus 2 is 1, and 4 minus 5 is negative 1. So 1, negative 1 is going to be our m prime, and 4, 1, 4 minus 2 is 2, 1 minus 5, negative 4, and that is going to be our L prime. So when we plot that out, that is what it looks like. Okay, on to number 6. The translation is 3 units left, that's negative 3. 2 units up, y plus 2. Again, label our points 2, 2, 3, negative 2, 0, 5, negative 1, negative 1, negative 2. So now what we want to do is we want to subtract 3 from all the x's and add 2 to all of the y's. So we're going to start with 0, negative 5, that's w. And we're going to go 0 minus 3 is negative 3. And negative 5 plus 2 is negative 3. We're going now to go to x, negative 1, negative 2. Negative 1 minus 3, negative 4. And negative 2 plus 2 is 0. So that's going to be our x prime point. Then we're going to go to 2. Again, we go 2 minus 3 is negative 1. And 2 plus 2 is 4. So that 1, 4, that is going to be our y prime point. Then going to go 3, negative 2, goes to 3 minus 3 is 0. And negative 2 plus 2 is also 0, so that means that that last point, z prime, is going to be on the origin. Go ahead, plug them in. Connect the dots. And there you go. As you can see, we moved the entire image 3 units left, 2 units up. So now we're on to 7 and 8. 7, we're going to go 3 units right and 1 unit down. So that's going to be x plus 3, y minus 1. And as always, what I like to do is go and number all my points. So we have negative 3, 4, negative 3, 5, negative 1, 2, and negative 1, 5. So those are my 4 points. And again, on each one of these, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add 3 to each of the x values and subtract 1 from each of the y values. So negative 1, 2, and I'm going to go 3 minus 1, that's 2. 2 minus 1 is 1. Negative 1 plus 3, 2. 5 minus 1, 4. Negative 3 plus 3, 0. 5 minus 1, 4. Negative 3 plus 3, 0. 4 minus 1, 3. So those are my 4 points. The way they're written, it is T prime, S prime, R prime, Q prime. So T prime, S prime, Q prime, and R prime. Connect the dots, and there we go. Moving on to number 8. 1 unit right, 4 units up. That's going to be x plus 1, y plus 4. So my 4 points are negative 5, negative 3 for C, negative 5, negative 4 for D, negative 1, negative 1 for B, and negative 3, negative 5 for A. And again, what we're doing on each one of those is adding 1 to the x value and 4 to the y value, which means that negative 3, 5 is going to transform. We're going to go negative 3 plus 1, and we're going to get negative 2. We're then going to go negative 5 plus 4, and we're going to get negative 1. So that is going to be our A prime. B prime, we're going to go negative 1, negative 1. We're going to add negative 1 plus 1 is 0. Negative 1 plus 4 is 3. That's B prime. C prime, negative 5, 3. We're going to add 1 to our x, so negative 5 plus 1 is negative 4. Then we're going to add 4 to our y. Negative 3 plus 4 is 1. So our C prime then is going to be negative 4, 1. Finally, we're looking for D prime. So we're going to go negative 5, negative 4. That's our pre-image. And then we are going to transform that by adding 1 to the x and 4 to the y. Negative 5 plus 1, negative 4. Negative 4. And then we go negative 4 plus 4 is 0. So that's going to be our D prime. And then what we want to do is just plug them all onto the graph. A prime, B prime, C prime, D prime. Connect the dots. And there we have our pretty translation. Okay. Moving on, 9 intensities are our last 2 translations, and then we'll move on to reflections. So 9, easy, 3 units right. We're just going to count 3, so that's x plus 3. Just move f over to the right 3, e over to the right 3, and g over to the right 3. So as you can see, all we did was we took it and we slid it 3. So finally, number 10, 1 unit right, 4 units down. So that's going to be x plus 1 and y minus 4. So we're going to be moving down and to the right. Our points, 2, 1, 2, 4, and 3, 4. So what we're going to do on each one of these is we are going to add 1 to the x. So 2 plus 1 is 3, 4 minus 4 is 0, and subtract 4 from the y. 3, 4. We're going to go 3 plus 1, 4. 4 minus 4, 0. And finally we have 2, 1. 2 plus 1 is 3, and 1 minus 4 is negative 3. So those are our points. So we're going to plot down 3, 0, so that's going to be G prime. F prime is 4, 0. And H prime is 3, negative 3. Connect the dots, make sure they look the same. And that's a good way to check these. If you connect the dots and it looks, you went from a triangle to an octagon, probably want to sit there and go back, look at the problem, and fix what you need to fix. Again, this resource is here for you all the time. You can watch it whenever you want. Moving on. So a reflection, if you're not sure what a reflection is or how it works, there was another YouTube video called, funny enough, Reflections. So basically how we look at it a lot of times is as a mirror. And we talked about this on the other one, but there are two important properties you need to remember. That whenever you reflect something, you do create an image, but then the line over which you reflected it becomes the perpendicular bisector of the line segment containing the pre-image and the image. If that didn't make sense to you, go back, read the watch the YouTube video on reflections, specifically the first part. So, whenever we reflect something across the y-axis, all we need to do is change the value of the x. See? Y-axis, change the sign of the x. So 2, 4 becomes negative 2, 4. Negative 1, 3 becomes 1, 3. 4, 2 becomes negative 4, 2. And 0, 1 doesn't move at all. Why? Because 0, 1 is actually on the axis of reflection, or the line of reflection in this case. And so nothing actually happens. If the point is on the line of reflection, then nothing doing. It just stays there. So in this case, Z and Z prime, Z and Z prime are the same point. Number 12. When we reflect across y equals x, what we want to do is we want to switch x and y. So if we start off with 8, 7, then we switch, we'd be at 7, 8. Okay, so what we want to do is we want to label each of these 3, 2, 4, negative 3, and 0, negative 2. Okay, so what we're looking for here is reflection across that line. So the 3, 2, we're going to switch it, and it's going to become 2, 3, R prime. S prime, we're going to go from 4, negative 3 to negative 3, 4. And even even Q prime, we're going to go from 0, negative 2. We're going to go negative 2, 0. As you can see, that is what happens when you reflect across the line y equals x. We need to make sure we label them all properly. So just double check that R and R prime are reversed. Moving on. Reflection across y equals 1 for number 13. Y equals 1 looks like that. So here, when we're reflecting across a horizontal line, we know that it's just going to be a straight vertical reflection. So we want to take each of our points, count how many down to the line, and then double that to get rid of that. So let's start off with x. X is 1 down to the line and 1 below. So that's going to be x prime. W, we're going to count down 1, 2, 3, 4. So if it was 4 above, it's got to be 4 below. So we go 1, 2, 3, 4, and that's going to be our W prime. V, 2 up top, So we need 2 on the bottom, and that's going to give us v prime. So that is our reflection of x VW. So reflection across the y-axis, hopefully we haven't forgotten this already. When you reflect across the y-axis, all you have to do is change the positive or negative of the x-axis. So that's how it works. You reflect across the y-axis, you change the x's sign. If you reflect across the x-axis, you change the y sign. So here we have our 4 points. -1, 0, 3, 0, 4, 3, and -2, 1. And so what we're going to do is we are going to then change the sign of each of the x's. So we're going to start off with E, and that's going to give us not from 4, 3, but -4, 3. And again, f prime, because it is on the axis, that it is on that line of reflection, we actually don't do anything with f prime. D moves from 2, -1 to -2, -1. And G moves from 1 or 0, -1, 0 to +1, 0. And that would be the finished project. So 15, reflection across y equals -x. We actually went over this in class, so hopefully you have notes. But if you didn't, when we talked about reflecting over y equals x, we said all you do is switch the values. So 7, 4 over y, if we reflected that point of 7, 4 over y equals x, then it would become 4, 7. When we deal with negative y equals -x, we take that and then we not only do we switch the two values, but we change their signs. So here, I'll show you how it's done. So 15. We have 3, 1, -4, 1, -1. We have 2, -1, and -1, -4. And that's the line we're flipping it over, or reflecting it over. So what we want to do is we want to change each of them. So K prime. So K started off as -4, -1. So we switch the -4 and the -1. So that gives us -1, -4. Plus, we then change the signs. So we go from -1, -4, change the signs to 4, or to 1, 4. So notice what we did was we switched the x and the y value, and then we changed their signs. Going to do the same thing with the other 3. L prime, we know that L is over at -3, 2. So we want to switch those and go to 2, -3, and then change the signs. So we get to +3, and that's where L is, L prime. We do that with N prime, and we go from -4, -1, so we switch their positions, and that gives us, or N, we go -1, -4, so we're going to switch positions to -4, -1. We then change signs, so we have 4, 1. M started off as 2, -1, so what we want to do is we want to switch those out. So instead of being 2, -1, you're going to be -1. And then we change the signs. So instead of 2, -1, we then switched to 1, -2, and then we switch the signs. So then we're +1, -2, and that's going to give us m prime. Okay, over on 16, we're reflecting around x equals 3. And so we go x equals 3. And so for s, we know that s is 1 away. So we just go 1 towards 1 past. That's going to give us s prime. R prime, 2 away. T prime, we're going to go 1 and 1. And Q, we're going to go 2 and 2. And we're going to connect the dots. And there we go. Okay, 17 and 18, reflection across the y-axis. Again, I hope you remember this from before. When we reflect across the y-axis, all we're going to do is change the x sign. So if our x was -1, it would become +1. So here our points are 0, -2, 2, -4, and -3, -5. So we're reflecting across the y-axis. So J stays put, right, because it's on the y-axis. And our first rule of reflections was that if a point is on the line of reflection, then its image is itself. So that's J prime. We're going to go from 2, -4, switch the value or the sign on the x. So we go from 2, -4 to -2, -4. That's K prime. And I prime, we go from -3, -5. We're going to switch the value on the x. So we go from -3 to +3. And there we go. So moving on to number 18, reflection across y equals 1. Always a good idea to draw y equals 1. So notice when we do this, we see that we have 2 points, C and F, which are on that line of reflection. Now, as we just talked about, if it's on the line of reflection, then its prime is there. So we know that C and C prime are the same spot, and that F and F prime are the same spot. So we can just mark those down really quickly. And then because the other two are directly above, we just count down. So for F, we're going to count down 1, 2, 3, 4. And so we have to count down 4 the other way. 4 up, 4 down. 1, 2, 3, 4. And that would be E prime. Again, F and C, nothing doing. D counted 2 down. D counted 2 down to the line. So we count 2 past. And that is going to give us our image, or our reflected image. We got 2 more. Okay, 19 and 20. 19, reflect across the y-axis. Very similar to what we just did. Because this is what we just did. So all we want to do is we want to label those points and then flip them over the y-axis. Again, the y-axis, if we're flipping it over the y-axis, all that needs to get changed is the sign of the x. So look, we have 2 points here, 0, 5 and 0, 0, which are already on the y-axis, so those aren't going to move at all. So really for this one, all we have to do is move 2. We have 4, 2 and -1, 3. And what we're going to do is we're just going to switch those x values. So 4, 2 goes to -4, 2. And that's 19. And 20, again, we are reflecting over the line y equals -x. When we do that, any point, they not only switch positions, but they switch responsibilities. So we go from AB to negative BA. So what we want to do is we want to label these 4 points. That gives us 2, 5, 3, 3, 2, 1, and 0, 4. We are going to switch them and change their spots. So if we start off with 3, 3, we can easily switch those. Why? Because it's the same number. But then we deal with the changing of the signs. Now notice here we're going to change both signs. So we're going to go from 3, 3 to negative 3, negative 3. And that's going to be Q prime. QR. So we go 2, 5. We're going to switch to 5, 2. Change the signs. That's R prime. S prime, we have 0, 4. And so we're going to switch to negative 4, 0. And finally, we have 2, 1. So what we're going to do is we're going to switch it from 2, 1 to 1, 2 and administer what we got. So we go from, and that's all 4. And it looks familiar. So if you have any questions, go back, rewatch this, ask Mr. Steiner. Even if what I'm saying isn't making most sense, you should be able to follow along with the actual writings. If you have any questions, just email. Let me know. Thank you guys very much.